Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all from wherever you're listening in from. It is your host Diego Ife, and you are listening to the Boon Podcast first Africa Bulletin. Now, with the Africa Bulletin, you can expect to hear about news segments summarizing key events from the continent and also special reports on pertinent topics and country case studies across the African continent and also in the broader black world. Now, please, before I go into it, like, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your comments. Would love to hear your feedback. I'm going to dive straight into it. So, first story we have on the agenda is why Africa's first COVID vaccine factory struggles to find customers. The signing of a licensing deal late last year for South Africa's Aspen Pharmacare to bottle and sell Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccines across Africa was hailed as a lifeline for a continent that lost out in the rush for jabs earlier in the pandemic. But 6 months later, the factory is on the brink of closure because of a lack of demand amid general apathy. Now, only 5% of South Africans have been vaxxed. The death toll is rather low in Africa, generally lower than all other continents. Africa has only accounted for 8.3% of deaths out of a global total of 14.9 million excess deaths globally. Now, according to the World Health Organization, Africa has a 16.7% contribution of the global population, and some experts have said that this is because it is the youngest continent in the world, with a median age of 19.7 years, as against Europe having the oldest with 42.5 years. Now, moving on to the second story we have, South Africa's coal miners struggle to cash in on Russia sanctions. Demand and prices have had a major uptick, but long enduring corruption and poor infrastructure has impeded opportunities for exports of coal. Now, rising demand should be a boon, as prices for South Africa's benchmark export grade coal have doubled since the start of the year, as European countries buy up alternative sources of coal ahead of the European Union's ban on Russian imports later this year as part of Ukrainian war sanctions. The European Union will also permit more burning of the fossil fuel to replace Russian oil and gas in the years to come. However, massive theft of copper cables and the shortage of trains owing to the corruption under Jacob Zuma, the former president who resigned under a cloud of scandal in 2018, has caused problems for Transnet, the state freight operator. We are unable to meet contractual obligations in terms of volumes of coal, said Paul Jadabi, the chief executive of Transnet. South Africa's Mineral Council have said that mining companies lost out on 35 billion in rand or $2 billion in revenue last year because they could not transport the bulk of commodities such as coal that they were contracted to sell. It doesn't make any sense why one entity is costing the country so much, said the CEO of the African Rail Industry Association with respect to Transnet's comments. Now, last year, European countries joined the European Union and the US and the UK to pledge $8.5 billion in funding for renewable energy production in South Africa and to speed up its plans thereof in terms of phasing out coal. Yet it has been criticised, as in the initiative has been criticised for being hypocritical, as Europe is giving out mixed messages with respect to stepping up its demand for coal, burning of fossil fuels, but then also trying to push a decarbonisation/reduction of mining for coal and other fossil fuels. Now, ultimately, one has to say, make it make sense. These Western countries ought to pick a struggle. It can't be both, it has to be one or the other. And our final story that I have to bring to you is from Malawi. British businessman is under investigation for corruption in Malawi and has been refused permission by a London court to leave the UK. Now, Zanef Abdul Rashid Sattar was told by Uxbridge Magistrates Court his bail conditions prohibit him from leaving the UK. The areas of corruption he was accused of were in relation to public contracts with the Malawian government for the provision of armoured personnel carriers, food rations and water cannons. He has robustly denied wrongdoing in relation to his October 2021 arrest, and so far, to date, he has not been charged with any wrongdoing. Now, as we can see, there's a lot of corruption on the continent. We stand against that. We believe that it's very short-sighted, and one has to look at another way of doing business. Granted, much of this corruption is long enduring, but nothing can be sustained forever. So we have to look for answers. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the Boon Podcast Maiden Africa Bulletin. We do have some other news coming up for you with relation to the African Free Trade Agreement. And now I am very much looking forward to sharing that with you. In the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Have a great day and peace.